All 5 of my sisters raised their hands for Noah. Not one of them looked at me when Victoria announced that the son they had grown up with would remain the Veil heir while I would be removed from the company for fraud. Then Claire slid a confession across the boardroom table and told me signing it was the only way I could still be considered family. I stared at the 5 signatures waiting beneath the statement. The document said I had access to restricted server, copied confidential client files, and caused the company to lose $8,400,000. It also said I would surrender my voting rights while the board decided whether to refer the matter to federal investigators in my first life. I had signed it. I had signed because Sophie was crying. I had signed because Monica said hundreds of medical deliveries could be delayed if the scandal became public. I had signed because Rachel promised the statement would remain internal. Most of all, I had signed because Victoria placed her hand over mine and said, "Protect the family now, Ethan. We can correct the record later." They never corrected it. The confession became the foundation of the case against me. The server records Noah had altered became evidence. Claire stopped answering my calls after prosecutors opened an investigation. Rachel gave reporters a statement describing me as an unstable relative who had never adjusted to returning to the Veil family. 14 months later, I walked out of federal prison with no company, no professional license, and no family waiting outside the gate. 3 years after that board meeting, I died in an interstate pileup while driving through an ice storm. Then I opened my eyes and found Claire's confession in front of me again. The same silver pen rested beside it. The same 5 hands were raised around the table, and Noah wore the same careful expression of wounded concern. "Ethan," he said softly, "none of us wanted it to come to this in my first life." That voice had made me furious this time. It made me reach for my phone. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Put that away. Is this meeting being recorded?" I asked. The corporate secretary looked at Victoria before answering. "Yes. All succession votes and disciplinary proceedings are recorded." "Good." I opened the secure storage application connected to Reed Systems and selected the audit package I had created 6 months earlier. It contained the lower-level server logs that even a company administrator could not alter without triggering a separate record. In my first life, I had discovered those logs too late. Noah had already convinced the board that I created them after the breach. This time, the original timestamps were still intact. I sent the archive to Marcus Bell, the attorney who had handled the patents for my private company. Then I typed one line beneath it. "Preserve everything. No contact with Veil Counsel without me." Claire tapped the confession with one finger. "This is not a negotiation," she said. "The evidence shows your credentials were used to access the client database at 2:13 in the morning." "My credentials," I said. "Not my device." Sophie finally looked at me for half a second. I saw uncertainty in her face. Then Noah lowered his head. "I should never have accepted the CEO nomination," he said. "Maybe Ethan would not have felt threatened if I had stepped aside." That was how he did it. He never accused me directly when my sisters were watching. He made himself smaller until they rushed to defend him. Monica turned toward me. "Do you hear yourself? Noah is still trying to protect you." I heard him. Rachel folded her arms. "Then stop making this worse." Victoria sat at the head of the table beneath the gold Veil Meridian logo. She had run the company since our father died, and she spoke with the confidence of someone who had never imagined that I might refuse her. "Sign the statement," she said. "Transfer your voting proxy to Noah and we will handle this privately." My voting proxy. That was what the meeting was really about. When DNA testing proved I was the biological Veil's son 8 years earlier, I received the shares that had been held in trust until my identity could be confirmed. 28% of the company belonged to me. But I had allowed Victoria to vote those shares. I told myself it would prevent a war between me and the family that had raised Noah. I told myself I did not need power. I only needed time to prove that I had not returned to steal anyone's place. 8 years later, they were using my own voting rights to remove me. I picked up the silver pen. Noah exhaled. Sophie wiped at the corner of one eye. Victoria leaned back. Certain the crisis was over. I drew a line through the signature box. Claire's face changed first. "What are you doing?" Refusing to confess to something I did not do, I wrote the time beside the crossed-out space, then pushed the paper toward the corporate secretary. Add my refusal to the official minutes. Include the fact that I requested an independent forensic audit before any disciplinary vote. Victoria's chair moved sharply against the floor. You are not walking out of this room and pretending you have no responsibility. I am not pretending anything. I opened another file on my phone. The proxy agreement had been drafted 6 years earlier. Claire herself had reviewed it. The document allowed me to revoke Victoria's authority at any time through written notice to the company secretary. I signed the revocation electronically. The secretary's computer chimed. Every person at the table heard it. Victoria looked toward her. What did he send? The secretary swallowed. Notice of immediate revocation of the Reed Vale voting proxy. Silence moved across the room. Noah stopped looking wounded for the first time that evening. He looked afraid. You cannot do that in the middle of a board proceeding. Claire said. You wrote the agreement. I replied, page 6, section 4. Her eyes dropped to the tablet in front of her. She knew exactly what the clause said. Victoria stood. You are willing to damage this company because your sisters chose Noah. No, I removed my executive access badge and placed it beside the confession. I am no longer willing to damage myself because you chose him. Sophie pushed back from the table. Ethan, do not turn this into some dramatic goodbye. I looked at her hand. It was still raised. I am not saying goodbye. That seemed to calm her. It should not have. I left the boardroom without shouting, without threatening Noah, and without asking any of them to reconsider. At the family house, I packed 2 bags. I took my passport, my original patent records, the watch my adoptive father had left me, and the old laptop containing the first working version of the Aegis route engine. I left the company car in the garage. I placed the keys, corporate cards, and house access fob on the kitchen counter. At 11:48, Sophie sent me a message. Stop trying to scare everyone. Come home tomorrow and we can talk when you are calm. I saved the message. Then I turned off family location sharing. At 12:16, I canceled 3 recurring transfers that had never been required by any contract. At 12:32, I notified the bank that I would not automatically renew my personal guarantee on Vale Meridian's expansion credit line. At 1:07, I checked into a hotel under the name Ethan Reed. No Vale. At 2:13 in the morning, my phone displayed an emergency security alert. Someone inside Vale Meridian had attempted to erase the archived access records from the night of the data breach. The deletion failed. The request came from Noah's office. By sunrise, I had 23 missed calls. 5 were from my sisters. Not one message asked where I was. Every message demanded the access codes to a system Noah had spent 3 years claiming he built. I listened to Victoria's voicemail first. Ethan, the routing dashboard is locked in emergency mode. Noah says, you changed the administrative keys. Call me immediately. I had not changed anything. The dashboard had entered emergency mode because someone attempted to delete protected logs. It was a security function I designed after a ransomware attack 3 years earlier. Noah had praised it at a technology conference as one of his own innovations. Apparently, he had never learned how it worked. Monica's voicemail came next. Medical shipments are being delayed. Whatever point you are trying to make, patients have nothing to do with this. Send me the override. Rachel's message was shorter. This is exactly why the board could not trust you. Claire left 3 voicemails. The first threatened legal action. The second demanded that I preserve company property. The third sounded more careful. Ethan, do not make any public statements. We should discuss a controlled resolution before this becomes irreversible. Sophie sent only a text. Please stop. Noah did not contact me. That was sensible. Any direct communication could become evidence. I opened the dashboard from my laptop. The emergency lock had stopped unauthorized deletion, but ordinary dispatch functions were still active. No shipments had stopped. Only high-level administrative changes were blocked. Monica either misunderstood the alert or had repeated what Noah told her. I downloaded the overnight system report and added it to the evidence package. Then I called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. I received your message and the archive. He said, are you safe? The question caught me off guard. After 23 demands, he was the first person to ask. Yes. Did you sign anything? No. Good. Vale Council sent me a preservation demand 20 minutes ago. They are claiming you remove proprietary files. The files belong to Reed Systems. I know they may not. They know that was the problem. Claire had reviewed every licensing agreement. Victoria had signed them. Noah had attended presentations where I explained that Reed Systems owned the underlying code. They had simply grown accustomed to acting as if anything I provided belonged to them. Marcus took a breath. I need written authority to issue 3 notices. First, confirmation that the voting proxy is revoked. Second, preservation demands covering the server logs, building access records, internal messages, and all Northstar advisory payments. Third, notice to the bank that any guarantee renewal requires your separate consent. Send them. There will be consequences. I know the board may accuse you of destabilizing the company. They already accused me of a federal crime. That was not my question. I looked around the hotel room. 2 bags rested beside the desk. The entire life I had built inside the Vale family had been reduced to what I could carry without borrowing one of their suitcases. I am done protecting them from consequences they chose, I said. Marcus was silent for a moment, then I will send the notices. At 7:30, another alert appeared. A user with Noah's executive credentials had requested a manual override of the security lock. The request included a statement that the lower-level audit logs have become corrupted and should be permanently purged. I saved that too. At 8:12, the hotel desk called my room. There are several people in the lobby asking for you. Mr. Reed names Victoria Vale, Claire Vale, and a Mr. Noah Vale. Of course, Noah had come with them. He wanted to see what I knew. Tell them I am unavailable. The desk clerk hesitated. Ms. Vale says this is a family emergency. It is a corporate dispute. Do not give them my room number. I ended the call and opened the hotel application. I booked another room across the city under Reed Systems' business account. Before leaving, I placed the crossed-out confession inside a document sleeve. Claire had allowed me to keep my copy because she believed I would sign it later in my first life. That paper had taken everything from me this time. The blank signature line was the first thing I had kept. As I stepped into the elevator, Sophie called. I watched my phone ring until the doors opened. Then I answered. Where are you? She demanded. Somewhere I am paying for myself. That is not an answer. It is the only one you need. Her breathing changed. Victoria says you revoked the proxy. I did. Why? Because it is mine. You gave it to her and the agreement allowed me to take it back. This is about the vote. Yes. At least admit that. I already did. You are punishing all of us because we chose the person who has actually been our brother for 30 years. There it was, not our other brother, not the brother we grew up with, the person who had actually been our brother. I entered the elevator and pressed the lobby button. Then you made the right choice, I said. You should not need anything from me. That is not what I meant. It is exactly what you meant, Ethan. Come home. Why? The question silenced her. I waited. Finally, she said, because we need to talk. You had a meeting. You talked. You voted. We did not vote to remove you from the family. You gave me a confession to sign to protect you. No, it protected Noah, the board, and the company. I was the cost. She did not deny it. The elevator descended. Send the override code, she said quietly. Then we can discuss everything else. I closed my eyes. Even Sophie had not called because I was gone. She had called because the system refused to obey them. No, people are depending on us. The dispatch system is operational. The security lock only prevents administrative deletion. You know that now. A pause. Who told you what Noah tried to delete? She asked. No one had to. The elevator reached the lobby through the glass doors. I saw Victoria standing near the reception desk. Claire was beside her with a leather folder under one arm. Noah stood several feet behind them studying the elevators. They did not know which one would open. I have to go. I told Sophie. Ethan, wait. When the audit begins, tell the truth. About what? About the fact that you voted before you knew what happened. The doors opened. Victoria saw me immediately. I ended the call and stepped out. Noah moved first. Ethan, thank God. I stopped 10 feet away. He wore the same navy suit from the board meeting. His tie was gone and his collar was open. He had arranged himself to look exhausted. Victoria walked toward me. Give Claire the override credentials. No. Her expression hardened. This has gone far enough. It had gone far enough before you arrived. Claire opened the folder. We prepared a temporary access agreement. You will retain your ownership claims while providing administrative assistance during the investigation. I resigned. You cannot abandon critical infrastructure without transition. The license includes a transition clause. Submit a written request to read systems and pay the emergency service rate. Noah gave a faint laugh. You want to charge your own family while the company is under attack? The company is under a security lock because someone in your office attempted to delete evidence. The lobby went quiet. A hotel employee glanced toward us. Noah's face remained controlled, but his right hand tightened. I was trying to remove corrupted files, then explained that to the independent auditors. Victoria stepped between us. There will be no independent audit until we understand the scope of the breach. The board minutes will show that I requested one. The board can reject your request. With my voting proxy revoked, you no longer control enough shares to guarantee that. That struck harder than anything else I had said. Victoria's face changed. For 6 years, she had spoken with my votes as though they were hers. Now she had to ask. Claire lowered her voice. Ethan, think carefully. Once outside auditors enter this, regulators may become involved. Contracts could be suspended. Employees could lose their jobs. You should have thought about that before asking me to confess. Noah came closer. I will step down if that is what you want. I do not care what you do. His expression slipped only for a second. Then he recovered. You have always cared, Noah, I said. That is the last mistake you should make about me. I walked past them. Victoria caught my arm. I looked down at her hand. She released me. Where are you going? She asked. I picked up my bags from the bell attendant. Somewhere you cannot call home only when you need access codes. I crossed the lobby and stepped outside. Behind me, Claire said my name. I did not turn around before the car door closed. My phone received a message from Marcus. Preservation notices delivered. Independent Director Helen Ward has acknowledged receipt. She is requesting an emergency audit vote. A second message followed. Northstar Advisors' registered address is a condominium leased by Noah Vale. I looked through the hotel windows. Noah was speaking urgently to Claire. Victoria stood rigid beside them. Neither woman looked at me anymore. They were looking at him for the first time. Not as the brother who needed protection. As the man whose office had tried to erase evidence. The Vale house had always been quiet in the morning. Not peaceful. Quiet. There was a difference. Peace allowed people to breathe. The Vale house trained everyone to listen for the next instruction. Breakfast at 7 o'clock. Cars ready at 7:40. Executive briefings by 8. Family dinner on Sundays unless Victoria changed the schedule. When I first moved there 8 years earlier, I mistook structure for belonging. My adoptive parents had lived in a 2-bedroom house outside Milwaukee. My father repaired industrial equipment. My mother worked at a public library. We ate at a scratched oak table that rocked if anyone leaned too hard on the left side. No one had assigned seats. No one had to earn the right to speak. After the DNA results, the Vales invited me to Chicago and gave me a bedroom larger than my parents' living room. Victoria called it my home. Claire explained the family trust. Rachel introduced me to reporters. Monica arranged appointments with private specialists because she did not trust my medical records. Sophie showed me where the kitchen staff kept the coffee after midnight. Noah shook my hand and said there was room for both of us. I had spent 8 years trying to believe him. The morning after the hotel confrontation, I returned to the house. Once not to reconcile, to document what I had left, Marcus advised me to record the collection of my remaining property. A paralegal named Luis accompanied me as an independent witness. The front gate recognized my old vehicle, but the house access fob no longer worked. Sophie opened the door. Her hair was tied back, and she wore the gray sweatshirt she had owned since college for one irrational second. She looked like the sister who used to sit on the floor of my office while I fixed product demonstrations at 3 o'clock in the morning. Then she saw Luis and the camera in his hand. "What is this?" "A property collection," I said. "You brought a witness into our home." I brought a witness into a house where I have been accused of stealing corporate files. Her mouth tightened. You know, none of us thinks you are a thief. You signed a document saying exactly that. I did not sign the confession. You signed the board resolution. That was different. How? She had no answer. I handed her a copy of the inventory notice. I am collecting the remaining property listed on page 2. Luis will record only the rooms I use. Sophie looked past me toward the driveway. Did Victoria approve this? I do not need her approval to retrieve my belongings. This is still your home. No, it is a Vale family asset held by the trust. Claire explained that to me the day I arrived. Sophie flinched. Claire had explained it because she wanted me to understand that living there did not create a property interest. At the time, I appreciated the clarity. Now, it made leaving simple. Sophie stepped aside. My bedroom looked untouched. The closet still held suits purchased by the family stylist. Framed photographs lined one wall. In most of them, I stood at the edge. At our father's final birthday, Noah occupied the place beside him. I stood behind Monica's chair at Victoria's board appointment ceremony. Noah held the champagne bottle. I carried a laptop because a presentation had failed. At Sophie's product launch, I was visible only in the reflection of a glass display, kneeling beside a server cabinet. I removed none of the photographs. They belonged to the version of the family that had already made its choice. I collected tax files, personal notebooks, 2 external drives, clothing purchased with my own account, and a box of letters from my adoptive parents. Luis recorded each item. When we reached my home office, the door was open. I had locked it the night before the board meeting. Inside, 2 drawers had been pulled out. My desk computer was gone. Sophie stopped behind me. What happened? You tell me. I have not been in here. Who has? She walked to the security panel beside the door. The access history should show it. The screen displayed an error. Log retention disabled by administrator. I took a photograph. Sophie stared at the message. Ethan, I did not know that. That sentence is becoming expensive. Do not do that. Do what? Talk to me like I am one of your enemies. I turned toward her. You voted to suspend me based on evidence you had not verified. You supported taking my voting rights. You let Rachel tell the public I was unstable. Now someone has entered my locked office and removed a computer. I did not remove it. You helped create the conditions in which whoever did believed no one would question it. Her face lost color. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Noah appeared at the doorway. He had changed into a dark sweater and casual pants. He looked as if he had slept comfortably. Why? Is there a stranger recording inside the house? He asked. Luis is documenting my property. Noah's gaze moved to the empty space beneath the desk. If this is about the computer, Claire took it for the internal review without notifying me. It belongs to the company. No, the workstation was purchased by Reed Systems. You used it for Vale business that does not transfer ownership. Sophie turned to him. Why was the access history disabled? Noah shrugged. Probably part of the security lockdown. It says an administrator disabled retention. Then Ethan's lock must have caused it. I watched him. He was confident because he assumed the same thing he had assumed in my first life. That I would argue that I would make accusations without enough evidence. That Victoria would call me emotional. Rachel would call me dangerous. And Claire would tell everyone my anger proved consciousness of guilt. I took out my phone and typed a message to Marcus. Personal workstation removed from residence without notice. Office access retention disabled. Request preservation and return. Noah's expression tightened. You are sending messages instead of talking to us. I am talking to the person responsible for protecting my property. We are your family. Then family should have had a higher standard than strangers. He glanced at Sophie. Her eyes remained on the disabled security panel. Noah stepped closer to me. Do you really think you can walk away from everything the Vales gave you? There it was. Not concern, ownership. I handed Luis the box of letters and picked up my final bag. What exactly did the Vale give me, Noah? A name, a position, a life you never would have had. I kept Reed. You used Vale connections. And Vale used my code, my guarantees, my labor, and my shares. He smiled slightly. You always kept score. No, that was my mistake. Sophie looked at me. What does that mean? It means I never kept score until now. We left the room as I passed the family dining room. I saw 5 place settings on the table. Mine had already been removed. The sight did not hurt as much as I expected. Maybe because the previous life had already shown me how quickly they could erase me. Maybe because this time I had erased their access first. At the front door, Sophie followed me outside. Where are you staying? I am not sharing that. Do you think we would hurt you? I think someone used my credentials to commit fraud. Entered my office and removed my computer. That is not what I asked. It is the answer. She folded her arms against the cold. I called because I was worried. You called for an override code. I was worried after that. I placed the bag in the trunk of Louis's car. Tell Victoria all future communication goes through counsel. You will not even speak to your own sisters. I spoke at the board meeting. Ethan. I closed the trunk. She reached for my sleeve, then stopped before touching me. What would have happened if we chose you? She asked. The question was wrong in every possible way. You were not deciding which brother to invite to dinner. We were deciding who should lead the company. No, you were deciding whether to investigate evidence or sacrifice the person easiest to blame. That is not fair. Neither was the confession. Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears away. You always make everything sound final. In my first life, I had begged them to believe me after the indictment. I had sent Sophie copies of the logs. I had called Claire from my lawyer's office. I had written Victoria a 14-page explanation from prison. Nothing had been final enough. This time final was the point. I am only accepting the decision you made, I said. Louis started the car before I got in. Sophie asked, Are you coming to Sunday dinner? No. Next week? No. For how long? I looked past her at the house. Noah stood behind an upstairs window. He stepped away when he realized I had seen him. I do not know, I said. But you should plan as if I am not. We drove to Reed Systems' original office. The company occupied 2 floors in a converted warehouse near the Chicago River. I had founded it before learning I was a Vail, and I had kept it legally separate even after joining the family business. At first, that decision had offended Victoria. Later, she appreciated the tax structure and licensing flexibility. Now it was the only place in Chicago where I did not need permission to enter. Marcus waited in the conference room with 3 folders. The board acknowledged your proxy revocation. He said, Helen Ward called an emergency vote on an independent forensic audit. Victoria opposed it. 2 directors abstained. Your 28% made the difference. The audit passed. 6 votes to 4. I sat across from him. When does it begin? Tomorrow morning. Vail Counsel objected to the scope. But the auditors will have access to financial records, server logs, and physical security data. What about my workstation? Claire claims it was secured as potential evidence where she has not said. Then demand an evidence inventory, chain of custody record, and forensic image already sent. Marcus opened the second folder. This is the banking issue. Your guarantee does not expire for 72 days. You cannot withdraw from existing obligations without cause. I know, but you are not required to renew it. The bank has paused new advances because the board dispute may constitute a material governance event. Will payroll be affected? Not under the current facility. Victoria may claim otherwise. She will. You could issue a clarification. No. Marcus studied me. You are willing to let your sisters misunderstand. They understood enough to vote. He nodded slowly. The third issue is the recurring payments you canceled, property insurance supplement, Rachel's studio lease guarantee and the reserve funding for Monica's pilot program. All voluntary, yes, but expect pressure. My phone rang. Victoria. I declined it. She called again. I declined that too. Marcus looked at the screen. You may need to communicate directly during the audit. In writing. A message arrived. You canceled the reserve transfer to Monica's division. This is retaliation. I typed back. The transfer was a voluntary monthly contribution from Reed Systems. It was never approved as a continuing obligation. Submit future funding requests through the normal investment process. The reply came immediately. This is not how family behaves. I read the sentence twice, then I sent 4 words. You established that yesterday. Marcus said nothing. At noon, Daniel Foster arrived. He carried no company laptop, only a paper folder. I should not be here, he said. Then why are you? Because I reviewed the North Star payments. He placed a spreadsheet on the table. The first transfer had been small, $120,000 for market access research. The next was $300,000, then $750,000. Over 3 years, the payments reached $8,400,000, the exact amount I was accused of costing the company. Who approved these? I asked. Noah initiated them. Victoria approved the first 2. After that, they fell under his executive spending authority. Did North Star deliver anything? A series of reports containing public information. Most appear to have been copied from trade publications. Why did finance keep paying? Noah tied the invoices to Project Meridian North. Rachel publicly announced it as his expansion strategy. Challenging the vendor meant challenging the project and challenging Noah. Daniel did not answer. He did not need to. I turned to the final page. North Star's registered address was Unit 1804 at Harbor Point Tower. I recognized it. Noah had lived there for 6 months after claiming he needed space from family pressure. The lease had been paid by a private investment company called NV Strategic Holdings. Can you trace the receiving account? The auditors can. I only had access to the payable records. Why show me? Daniel looked toward the conference room window. Because 2 years ago, you warned the board that Noah's vendor controls were weak. Rachel said you were trying to undermine him. Victoria removed the issue from the minutes. I remember. I said nothing. And now they are preparing to blame you for the exact amount sent to his vendor. He pushed the folder toward me. I do not want to be silent twice. I scanned each page and handed the originals back. The auditors will need these. They will receive them tomorrow. As he stood, my phone displayed another security alert. A login attempt had been made against Reed Systems' treasury account using a saved Vail Meridian credential. Marcus leaned over my shoulder. Is that Noah? The credential belongs to his executive office. What could he access? Nothing without a hardware key. The system recorded the attempt. Device fingerprint and location. Harbor Point Tower, Unit 1804. I saved the record. Daniel read the address on the screen. His face hardened. That is the North Star address. Yes, the bank login had failed, but Noah had given me something more valuable than access. He had connected himself to the shell company from a device he controlled. The sisters had chosen him because they believed I was desperate to take what belonged to him. By the end of the day, I understood the truth. Noah was not afraid I would take his place. He was afraid I would look closely at what he had already taken. Rachel's statement aired at 6 o'clock that evening. I watched it from the Reed Systems conference room with the sound turned low. She stood outside Vail Meridian headquarters beneath a wall of glass and steel. Behind her, the company logo appeared on a blue screen. Vail Meridian recently identified unauthorized access involving confidential client information. She told the reporters. The individual responsible has been removed from operational duties while an internal review continues. A reporter asked whether the individual was a family member. Rachel paused. She had perfected the pause years ago, long enough to imply pain, short enough to appear reluctant. We are dealing with both a corporate matter and a deeply personal betrayal. She said, our priority is protecting clients and employees from the actions of one dissatisfied individual. She did not say my name. She did not need to within minutes. Business outlets connected my resignation to the statement. Photographs from old family events appeared online. Headlines described a succession battle between the biological son and the longtime heir. I turned off the screen. Marcus looked up from his laptop. She stayed just inside the line, he said. No direct identification, no express accusation. She wanted people to identify me themselves. They had my name appeared in thousands of comments. Jealous, unstable, entitled man who had returned to a wealthy family and could not accept that affection had to be earned. In my first life, I had responded emotionally. I released a long statement describing the hospital switch, my work, the years I spent trying to fit into the family. And every time Noah took credit for something I built, Rachel used my anger against me. This time, I wrote 3 sentences. I deny any involvement in unauthorized access or disclosure of client information. I requested an independent forensic audit before Vail Meridian issued its public statement. I will cooperate fully with that audit and will address verified findings through appropriate legal channels. Marcus read it. That is all. That is all. No mention of Noah. No. No mention of the proxy. No. He nodded. Good. We released the statement through Reed Systems' attorney contact. Then I went back to work. Reed Systems had 12 employees. 5 supported other clients. 7 had been assigned almost entirely to Vail Meridian under a low-cost service agreement I approved years earlier. I called them into the main workspace. They already knew something had happened. Olivia Chen, our operations manager, stood near the first desk with her arms folded. She had warned me repeatedly that Vail consumed too many hours without paying market rates. Had always told her the arrangement was temporary. It had lasted 6 years. I resigned from Vail Meridian. I said the company has accused me of unauthorized access. An independent audit begins tomorrow. No one spoke. I continued. Reed Systems will comply with all existing contracts. We will not destroy records, disable services, or interfere with client operations, but effective immediately. No employee will perform unpaid work for Vail Meridian. Olivia raised one eyebrow. Does that include the emergency calls from executives who claim every inconvenience is a catastrophe? Yes. A few people looked at one another. I had expected concern. Instead, someone at the back laughed, not mockingly, with relief. Olivia placed a stack of printed tickets on the table. These arrived since this morning. 37 requests. 29 are outside the contract. What are they asking for? Password resets, report customization, executive dashboards, board presentation support, and direct access to the protected audit layer. The audit layer request is denied. It came from Noah. Preserve. It already did. I looked around the room. I put all of you in a bad position. You worked unpaid nights because I treated family requests as obligations. That ends now. A developer named Sam lifted his hand slightly. What happens if Vail cancels the contract? We survive. Can we? I opened the revenue report. Barely at first, but yes, the truth cost me something. Vail Meridian represented 43% of Reed Systems service revenue. Ending the discounted arrangement would force me to reduce expenses, delay expansion, and use a portion of my personal savings. Walking away was not free that mattered. I did not want victory built on magic. I wanted a life that remained mine even when it was difficult. We may lose them. I said, no one will be required to work extra hours to compensate. I will reduce my own compensation first. We will contact the clients we declined because Vail took priority. Olivia nodded once. That should have happened years ago. I know. At 9 the next morning, the independent audit began. Helen Ward selected a national forensic accounting firm with no prior relationship to the Vail family. Their team requested server images, payment records, access logs, email archives, visitor records, and copies of the confession Claire had prepared. Vail counsel objected to producing the confession. The auditors insisted at 10:20. Claire emailed me. We need to speak privately before the document is turned over. There are legal nuances you do not understand. I answered, put them in writing. She called. I let it ring. Then Victoria called. I ignored that, too. At 11 o'clock, Monica appeared at Reed Systems without an appointment. Olivia met her in reception. She says it concerns patient safety. Olivia told me. Bring her to the conference room. Monica entered carrying a tablet and the expression she used with hospital administrators who had missed a compliance deadline. The medical network is reporting route instability, she said. Which system? Cold chain allocation. Is any shipment outside safe temperature limits? No. But the predictive dashboard stopped updating. That dashboard is an optional analytics module. It affects staffing. It does not affect shipment safety. You know what I mean? I know exactly what you said. She put the tablet on the table. Fix it. Submit a service request. I did. Olivia marked it non-emergency and outside scope. You designed the system. Yes. You cannot hide behind a contract. I used to work without one because you were my sister. Her jaw tightened. I still am. Yesterday you voted to remove me for fraud. I voted to protect the company while we determined what happened. You determined what happened before you asked for an audit. We had logs. You had credentials. Are you really going to repeat that distinction forever until someone understands it? She stepped closer. Noah said, you threatened to expose private family information unless Victoria gave you the CEO position. Ask him to produce the message. He said it was verbal. Of course, you think everything is evidence after being handed a false confession. Yes. Monica looked through the glass wall at my employees. You are enjoying this. No. You always wanted us to need you. I almost laughed. For 8 years, I had answered calls at midnight. Cancelled vacations, repaired systems Noah broke, and transferred money into family projects that never repaid me. Now that I refused one request, she believed the refusal proved the generosity had been manipulation. I wanted you to value me when you did not need me, I said. That was the mistake. Her expression shifted, but only briefly. Will you fix the dashboard at the emergency rate? After a written request confirming that no patient shipment is at risk. You would charge your own sister. I would charge a corporation that publicly accused me of misconduct. She picked up the tablet. Victoria was right. You are trying to punish everyone. No, you are experiencing the cost of work you used to receive for free. She left without another word. At noon, Vale Meridian submitted the paid request. We fixed the dashboard in 31 minutes. For the first time, Reed Systems invoiced them at the rate listed in the contract. That afternoon, the bank confirmed that my personal guarantee would not renew automatically. Victoria sent an email to the board accusing me of using the guarantee as leverage in a family dispute. I forwarded the original agreement. It stated clearly that the guarantee covered only the current term. Renewal required separate written consent. Helen Ward replied to all directors, Mr. Reed is exercising an existing contractual right. The board should focus on resolving the governance and security issues that caused the lender's review. It was the first time anyone inside Vale Meridian had corrected Victoria in writing. At 4, Rachel called. I answered because I wanted the communication recorded through the company line. You released the license terms to a reporter. She said. I released the non-confidential section after you implied I was sabotaging the company. You made Noah look like a fraud. I did not mention him. Everyone knows he presented Aegis as his project. That is your problem. You approved those presentations. I approved demonstrations. I did not approve claims of authorship. He was the public face. I was the developer. Do you hear how bitter you sound? I hear a distinction you should have made before the press conference. She lowered her voice. Withdraw your statement. Say the disagreement has been resolved. It has not. We can restore your title. I resigned. Then return as a consultant. No. What do you want? It was the question all 5 of them kept asking. They believed every action concealed a demand. The CEO title, more shares, Noah's removal, a public declaration that I was the real son. They could not understand that I no longer wanted anything from them. An accurate audit, I said. Written correction of any false statement, separation of my assets from Vale Meridian. Nothing else. You expect me to believe this is not about the family vote. It began with the vote. Then tell me how to fix it. You cannot unraise your hand. She inhaled sharply. That is cruel. No, it is a fact. I ended the call. At 5:30, Marcus entered my office with a printed document. Your workstation has been located. Where? Not in Claire's legal evidence room. He placed the chain of custody response on my desk. The computer had been moved from the Vale House to Noah's executive office at 6:40 the morning after the board meeting. No forensic image had been taken. No evidence seal had been applied. At 8:12, someone from Noah's office attempted to delete the protected logs. At 9:20, Noah told the auditors the workstation had remained untouched since collection. 3 incompatible claims, 1 missing chain of custody. Marcus tapped the page. This helps you, but it also means someone may plant evidence. The lower audit layer records external drives. Does no one know? He knows the feature exists. He does not understand where the records are stored. My phone chimed with a new audit alert. The workstation had just connected to a removable storage device. The device identifier matched hardware purchased by Northstar Advisory. I looked at the timestamp. Noah was trying to manufacture proof while the independent audit was already active. He is panicking, Marcus said. No. I saved the alert and transmitted it to the auditors. He still thinks they will choose him after they see the truth. That was not panic. It was experience. For 30 years, whenever Noah created a problem, one of my sisters changed the meaning of what had happened. A lie became insecurity. A theft became confusion. A failure became pressure. A crime, if necessary, would become a family matter. At 6:14, Sophie sent me a screenshot of an old code repository. My name appeared beside every original module. Her message contained one sentence. Noah said he built this before you joined the company. I typed a response. Check the timestamps. 3 dots appeared beneath her name. Disappeared and returned. Finally, she wrote, I did. I set the phone down. She had found the first crack in the story she wanted to believe. I did not explain what it meant. This time, my sisters would have to complete their own investigation. For 8 years, I had maintained 2 sets of records. The first were formal contracts, invoices, patents, board resolutions, and tax filings. The second were personal payments made because Victoria called. Repairs performed because Monica said lives depended on them. Rent covered because Rachel's studio needed 1 more month and product expenses Sophie promised to repay after launch. Had never added the second set together. Doing so felt petty. Family did not calculate every favor. That belief had protected everyone except me. Olivia and I spent Saturday reviewing the accounts. The numbers appeared gradually. $380,000 advanced to Monica's medical pilot when its grant was delayed. $146,000 paid to prevent Rachel's independent studio lease from defaulting. More than $500,000 in Reed Systems labor never invoiced to Veal Meridian, a 7-figure personal guarantee that reduced the group's financing rate. Emergency travel, specialist fees, equipment purchases, and consultant retainers. The total exceeded $3 million, excluding the value of Aegis licensing. Olivia leaned back from the screen. You did all of this personally, some through Reed Systems. Why? At the time, each request seemed temporary. Every parasite calls the next meal temporary. I looked at her. She raised a hand. That was about the financial structure, not your relatives. It can be both. She closed the spreadsheet. We should invoice what the contracts allow. Yes. And write off the rest. I hated the phrase write off. It reduced years of effort to an accounting decision, but that was exactly what I needed to do. I could not collect affection retroactively. I could not force gratitude into the past. I could only stop adding new losses to the balance. At 9, Victoria sent an invitation for a family breakfast at a private club downtown. The message said all 5 sisters and Noah would attend. No lawyers, no recordings, no formal agenda. I forwarded it to Marcus. He called immediately. Do not attend. I want to hear what they offer. They are asking for an off-record meeting during an active forensic audit. I will record my own participation with notice. They will object, then I will leave. Marcus exhaled. Take me with you. They said no lawyers. You are not required to accept their terms. I know. In the end, I attended alone but wore a visible audio recorder clipped to my jacket. Victoria noticed it before I sat down. Turn that off. No, this is a family conversation. Then do not discuss the investigation. Claire's eyes fixed on the recorder. Recording laws are not the issue. Confidentiality is. I am not bound by a family confidentiality agreement. Rachel looked around the private dining room. Do you want the staff to hear this? You booked the room. Sophie stared at the empty chair beside Noah. It had been set for me. I sat at the far instead. Victoria folded her hands. We have considered your concerns. My concerns? The appearance of bias in the succession vote. There was no appearance. Fine. The vote was premature. Noah looked at her. It was a small movement, but I saw it. Victoria continued. We are prepared to suspend the CEO appointment until the audit concludes. Good. In return, you will restore the voting proxy, renew the bank guarantee, and resume operational oversight. No. Monica's cup struck the saucer. You have not even heard the full proposal. I heard the part where you correct your own mistake only if I resume paying for it. Rachel leaned forward. You cannot expect the company to function while you withdraw every support mechanism at once. The current guarantee remains active. The software remains licensed. Contracted support continues. That is technical wording. It is also the truth. Claire opened a document folder. We could reinstate you as Chief Systems Officer with full compensation and a board seat. I already own 28% of the company. A formal board seat would improve your position. My position is not the issue. Then what is? I looked at the 5 women around the table. You decided I committed a crime. Because Noah gave you a set of logs. None of you asked whether they came from my device. None of you checked the lower audit layer. None of you waited for the independent review. You prepared a confession before I entered the room. We were trying to contain damage. Victoria said by assigning it to me. We believed the evidence. You believed Noah. Sophie's gaze dropped. Noah finally spoke. If you want me gone, say it. I turned toward him. You keep offering things no one asked you to give. I am trying to save this family. You tried to access Reed Systems' treasury account from the North Star address. The room went still. Claire's head snapped toward him. What? Noah did not look at her. That is absurd. The attempt was recorded by device fingerprint and location. I have visited Harbor Point. That proves nothing. You used your executive credential. Someone copied it. The answer came too fast. Sophie looked up like Ethan's credential was copied. Noah's eyes moved to her. I did not say that. You just said someone could copy yours. He reached for his water glass because Ethan has administrative access. I almost admired the turn. Within seconds, he had used evidence against himself as another accusation against me. Victoria raised one hand. Enough. The audit will determine what happened. The audit I requested before you voted. I asked. Her jaw tightened. Yes. A server entered with breakfast plates. No one touched them. Claire closed the folder. There is another issue. Your refusal to renew the guarantee may trigger lender remedies. If the investigation is not resolved before expiration, then find another guarantor. The company's borrowing cost will increase. That is a corporate expense. You benefited from the company. I also gave it a below-market license and 6 years of unpaid labor. Monica shook her head. You keep reducing everything to money. No, I am finally separating money from family. Rachel said that sounds rehearsed. It took 8 years. Sophie looked at me across the table. What would make you come home? Victoria closed her eyes briefly as if Sophie had asked the wrong question. I answered anyway. Nothing. Sophie's face changed. You cannot mean that. I do, because of one vote, because the vote revealed what 8 years could not. What did it reveal? That when protecting Noah required sacrificing me, all 5 of you believed I was the easier loss. No one spoke. Noah shifted in his chair. I stood. Victoria said, sit down. The proposal is rejected. If you walk away now, the company may lose hundreds of jobs. The company has assets, revenue, executives, and a board. It does not require my personal sacrifice to exist. You know, lenders do not see it that way. Then perhaps the board should not have accused its guarantor of fraud without an audit. I walked toward the door. Claire followed me into the hall. Ethan, I stopped. She kept her voice low. The confession was never meant for prosecutors. It included an admission of unauthorized access and financial harm. It was for internal disciplinary purposes. It contained no limitation on use. We would have protected it in my first life. She had said the same thing after the investigators obtained it. I looked at her folder. Who drafted it? I did. Using whose factual summary? She did not answer. Noah's, I asked. His office compiled the initial incident report. Did you verify it? We had limited time. Did you review the raw logs? I reviewed excerpts. Selected by Noah. Her expression hardened defensively. Do not confuse a rushed judgment with conspiracy. I do not need conspiracy. Negligence was enough. She stepped closer. If the audit proves you are innocent, I will correct the record. No, the record will correct you. I walked away. That afternoon, Daniel delivered additional North Star records to the auditors. At 5, Helen Ward requested that the board freeze all payments to the vendor. Victoria approved the freeze. Noah objected. His written objection claimed North Star provided essential international market intelligence and that suspending payment could expose the company to breach of contract damages. The auditors requested the supporting work product. North Star produced 12 reports. Reed Systems' document analysis tool found that 10 contained passages copied from free industry publications. The remaining 2 were duplicates with different dates. At 7, Daniel called, "There is more." What? North Star invoiced Vale Meridian for a warehouse feasibility study in Poland. Did the company pursue a Polish warehouse? No. Who approved the invoice? Noah. How much? 1.2 million. For a warehouse that did not exist for a feasibility study no one can locate. I looked through the office windows at the river. The water reflected the city lights in broken lines. Send it to the auditors. I have. He hesitated. Victoria asked whether we could classify some North Star payments as confidential strategic investments instead of vendor expenses. Did you? No. Good. She is beginning to understand. No, she is beginning to understand the cost. There was a difference. Understanding meant seeing what she had done to me. Cost meant seeing what her decision had done to the company. I would not confuse the two again. On Monday morning, the bank notified Vale Meridian that no new credit advances would be approved until it received the preliminary audit findings. Victoria sent the board a message blaming recent destabilizing actions by a significant shareholder. Helen Ward replied with one sentence: "The significant shareholder did not create the unresolved fraud investigation." At 10, Noah called me for the first time. I answered and enabled recording. "You are enjoying watching them turn against me." He said, "No, you always wanted this." I wanted the truth before the vote. You wanted my place. What place? My family, my company, my name. I kept my name. You put Vale on legal documents when it benefited you. I used the name the court recognized after the DNA case. You could have refused the shares. You could have refused mine. Silence. Then he laughed quietly. You think a few invoices will change 30 years? No. Victoria raised me. Claire defended me. Monica sat beside me when I was sick. Rachel built my public career. Sophie raised her hand. His voice sharpened. Exactly. They chose me. Yes. You cannot take that away. I am not trying to. Then why are you doing this? You used my credentials. You moved company money. You entered my office. You tried to erase logs. You cannot prove any of that. Then you have nothing to fear from the audit. He breathed through his nose. You should have signed. The words were almost a whisper. I looked at the recording indicator. Why? Because they would have forgiven you for what you did. The line went dead. I saved the call and sent it to Marcus. It was not a confession. It did not need to be. It established that Noah wanted the false statement signed and connected his interest directly to avoiding the audit. By evening, the forensic team traced North Star's banking relationship through 2 intermediary accounts. The final beneficiary was NV. Strategic Holdings, Noah's private investment company. Daniel had been right. $8,400,000 had not vanished because of a data breach. It had been transferred in carefully approved payments over 3 years. The supposed loss assigned to me was the exact hole Noah needed to hide. When Marcus showed me the preliminary chart, I thought about the confession. Noah had not chosen the number because it sounded believable. He had chosen it because if I accepted responsibility, finance could write off the missing payments as losses connected to my misconduct. My sisters had not merely preferred him. They had nearly completed his accounting plan for him. The independent auditors interviewed me on Tuesday. We met in a neutral office several blocks from Vale Meridian. Marcus sat beside me, but he spoke only when the questions involved privilege or document ownership. The lead investigator was a woman named Andrea Mills. She placed a printed diagram of Aegis route engine on the table. Who developed this system? Reed Systems. Who specifically wrote the architecture? I did. With contributions from 6 engineers listed in the repository. Did Noah Vale contribute code? No. Did he design the commercial model? He attended product strategy meetings. The pricing and deployment plans were developed by me and our operations team. She opened a video on her laptop. Noah stood on a conference stage beneath the words, "The future of intelligent logistics." I began building Aegis after watching my father struggle with outdated systems. He said in the recording, "What started as a personal project became the foundation of Vale Meridian's transformation." Andrea paused the video. "Were you aware of this statement?" I knew he presented Aegis publicly. I did not watch every presentation. Did you authorize him to call himself the creator? No. Did you object? Not formally. Why? I looked at the image of Noah on the screen. Because Victoria said investors trusted him. Because Rachel said the public preferred a simple founder story. Because Sophie told me. Everyone inside the company knew the truth because I believed private recognition would eventually matter more than public credit. I wanted to avoid another family conflict. I said Andrea made a note. Did you receive compensation for the intellectual property? Reed Systems received a base licensing fee. She slid the agreement toward me. This fee is approximately 12% of comparable market rates identified by our technology consultant. That is possible. Why was it so low? Vale Meridian was under financial pressure when the agreement began. The company's financial position improved significantly. Yes. Why did the rate remain unchanged? I had no professional answer. Only a personal one. They were my family. Andrea looked at me for a moment, then continued. The interview lasted 4 hours. We covered access controls, my location during the breach, the missing workstation, and Noah's attempt to access Reed Systems' treasury account at 213 on the night of the breach. I had been 70 miles away at a distribution center handling a refrigeration failure. Vale's vehicle records confirmed my location. So did fuel receipts, gate cameras, and 47 employees. The initial incident report omitted all of that. It stated only that my credentials had been used. Who prepared the report? I asked. Andrea closed the folder. We are not ready to make findings. I know who submitted it. I am asking who wrote it. Noah Vale's chief of staff assembled the report from information provided by his office and internal security. Was internal security interviewed? Yes. And you will receive the findings through counsel. Her caution was appropriate. Unlike my sisters, she would not make an accusation before completing the work. After the interview, Sophie was waiting outside. She stood when I entered the lobby. Marcus looked at me. I will be in the car. Sophie held a thin laptop against her chest. I need 10 minutes. Is this about the audit? It is about the code. Then send it to Andrea. It is about us. I almost kept walking. Then I saw the laptop. It was the model Sophie had used during her first product launch 5 years earlier. We sat in a corner of the lobby. She opened an archived repository. I found this on an old development machine. She said, Noah told me he created the forecasting module before you joined Vale. The screen showed the first commit date for years before I learned I was a Vale. My name appeared beside it. Ethan Reed. Sophie scrolled through later versions. Every major feature Noah had claimed as his own originated in my work or that of Reed Systems employees. I asked him about it. She said, what did he say that he gave you the original concept and you registered it first? He did not know me then. I said that and he said the dates had been migrated incorrectly. They were cryptographically signed. I know. She looked down at her hands. You taught me that. I waited. She had come for something. Maybe an explanation. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe permission to believe she had been misled rather than admitting she had chosen not to look. Why did you never tell me? She asked. I did. When at your launch rehearsal, Noah changed the technical slides and replaced the development credits with his biography. I told you the credits were inaccurate. You said the slides were inaccurate. You did not say he stole your work. I said the repository showed Reed Systems authorship. I thought you were arguing over company branding because that was easier. She flinched. That is not fair. It is exact. She closed the laptop. Should have checked. Yes, I trusted him. You trusted him more than you trusted me. He was my brother before we knew you existed. And what was I after? Her eyes filled. I did not rescue her from the question. Finally, she said, I do not know how to answer that. That is an answer. She reached across the table but stopped before touching my hand. I did not want you gone. You voted to remove me from the company. You supported the confession. I believed Claire when she said it would protect you, did you? Read it. She looked away. Some of it. It said, I knowingly committed a crime. I thought the lawyers would control where it went. The family's lawyer was asking me to sign it. Her voice fell. I was scared. So was I. Noah said regulators could shut down the medical network. Monica said shipments could be suspended. Rachel said reporters were already calling. Victoria said we had minutes to decide. And all 5 of you decided the fastest solution was me. She pressed her lips together. I am sorry. I believe she meant it. That did not make the apology sufficient. Submit the repository to the auditors. I said, is that all? What else do you want me to say that we can fix this? You can correct what you did. That is not the same as fixing us. She stared at me. You have already decided. You decided first. I stood. She called after me. Ethan. Noah is trying to issue new shares. I stopped. What? He told Victoria the company needs emergency capital. The proposal would dilute existing shareholders who do not participate. Meaning me. He said, you are unlikely to invest while the audit continues. Did Victoria approve it? She has not voted yet. Send the proposal to Marcus. Will you come to the meeting? Yes. Relief crossed her face. She misunderstood. Was not returning to the company. I was protecting my property. The emergency board meeting took place the next morning. I attended by video from Reed Systems. Marcus sat beside me. Noah presented a plan to issue $40 million in preferred shares to an investment group he had personally secured. The investor was another entity connected to NV Strategic Holdings. He intended to use company money he had already diverted to purchase discounted control of the company. When he finished, Victoria asked whether there were objections. I raised my hand. Noah's expression cooled. The proposal violates Section 11 of the shareholder agreement. I said, any issuance structured primarily to dilute a named shareholder requires that shareholders' written approval. Claire looked down at the agreement. It may not apply to preferred equity. It applies to any security carrying conversion or voting rights. Noah leaned toward the camera. The company needs capital because you disrupted the bank facility. The bank facility is under review because the company accused its guarantor of fraud. You are refusing to support the business. I am refusing to finance an entity that has not disclosed who controls its proposed investor. Victoria frowned. The investor's ownership was reviewed. By whom? Noah's office. I shared a corporate registration chart on the screen. The proposed investor traced through 2 limited liability companies to the same financial agent used by Northstar Advisory and NV Strategic Holdings. Daniel looked at Noah. Helen Ward spoke first. This transaction cannot proceed without full beneficial ownership disclosure. Noah's face re-eamed. This is a smear. Ethan is using private corporate records to interfere with financing. The records are public. You hired investigators to target me. The forensic auditors found the link. Victoria muted her microphone and spoke to Noah. I could not hear her, but I saw the change in her face when he answered. She unmuted. The proposal is postponed. No, Helen said it should be withdrawn and referred to the auditors. Noah stood. You are letting him destroy this company because he is angry about a family vote. I looked into the camera. You transferred company funds to Northstar. You tried to access Reed Systems' account from the same address. Now you are attempting to buy control through another linked entity. That is a lie. Then disclose the owners. He said nothing. The meeting ended without a vote. An hour later, Sophie sent the old repository to the auditors. 2 hours after that, Helen Ward requested a freeze on all transactions initiated by Noah. Victoria approved it. It was the first time she had acted directly against him. That afternoon, Noah entered the Vail Meridian Server Center and demanded local administrative access. The technician refused because the audit hold required 2-party authorization. Noah threatened to fire him. The technician recorded the exchange and sent it to the auditors. By sunset, Noah had lost access to company payments, server controls, and proposed financing for the first time in his life. My sister's protection could not give him what he wanted. He called me at 8. "You think you won?" He said, "This is not finished." "You are right. It is not. You have no idea what they will do when they realize the company cannot survive without the name I built." "The name you built." "Investors trust me. Clients trust me. The public trusts me. Then you should have no problem answering the auditors. You keep hiding behind them. I requested them before you move my computer." His voice changed. "I did not move it. Your office signed the property receipt. Claire authorized it." "Claire says she did not." He went silent. I continued. "The external drive connected to it was purchased by Northstar." Another silence. Then he laughed. "Evidence can mean anything when you control the system. That argument will be useful to the auditors." "You were never supposed to come back," he said. The sentence was so quiet I almost missed it. "From where?" "To this family." My hand tightened around the phone. "The hospital made a mistake." He continued. "Everyone had a life before you appeared. Victoria had a plan. Claire had a brother she trusted. Monica, Rachel, Sophie, they loved me. Then you arrived with a DNA report and expected biology to rewrite 30 years. I expected nothing from you. You expected them to make room. They said there was room. There never was." I looked at the dark office around me in my first life. Those words would have destroyed me. Now they clarified everything. "I know," I said. "You do not belong here. I know that, too." He stopped. I could almost hear him trying to understand why the insult had failed. "You should leave the company," he said. "I already resigned." "Sell the shares." "Not to you." "Then what do you want?" "Records preserved, funds returned, false accusations corrected, and the family." I looked at the blank screen of the conference room television. "You can keep the place you were so afraid I wanted." I ended the call. The next morning, the auditors recovered a deleted document from Noah's executive laptop. Its title was Ethan Exit Plan. The first page listed my removal from operations. The second listed the transfer of my voting proxy. The third described how the data breach could be classified as a loss equal to Northstar's outstanding payments. The final line read, "Obtain signed admission before independent review." Vale Meridian did not collapse when I left. Companies rarely collapse in one dramatic moment. They fracture quietly. A delayed report. A lender asking for another document. A client requesting proof that a license remains valid. An employee refusing an instruction because no one can confirm who has authority. The first serious fracture appeared in Monica's medical logistics division. A major hospital network sent a formal inquiry regarding Aegis route engine. Rachel's public statement had implied that the system itself might have been compromised. The client wanted confirmation of ownership, security responsibility, and continued support. Monica forwarded the inquiry to me with one line. "Please handle this before the client. Suspends shipments." I replied to all recipients. Reed Systems confirms that it owns the Aegis route engine intellectual property and that the current licensed production system remains operational. No evidence presently indicates that shipment routing data was altered. Reed Systems will continue performing contracted security obligations while the independent audit proceeds. Monica called within 30 seconds. "Why did you identify Reed Systems as the owner?" "Because it is." "You made it sound as though Vale does not control its own platform." "Vale licenses the platform." The client did not need that distinction. They asked, "You could have spoken to me first. You included me on the client email. You know what I mean?" "Yes." "You wanted me to protect the story you had been telling them." "What story?" "That Noah created Aegis and Vale owned it outright." "We never said outright. You allowed them to believe it." "This is not the time to argue over credit." "It became the time. When your public statement questioned my integrity," she lowered her voice. "The hospital network may demand new terms, then negotiate them. You are the technical authority. I resigned from Vale. You cannot simply stop being responsible. Watch me." She ended the call. An hour later, Vale Meridian submitted a formal request for a technical briefing. Reed Systems accepted at the contractual emergency rate. I attended with Olivia and 2 engineers. Monica sat on the Vale side of the conference table with Noah, Rachel, and 3 client representatives. Noah had been temporarily restricted from financial and server access, but Victoria still allowed him to participate in external meetings. Removing him completely would have required admitting the family had made a mistake. The lead client representative asked who controlled system updates. I oversee the platform architecture through Reed Systems. I said Vale Meridian controls its operational data and dispatch rules. Noah interrupted as executive sponsor. I set the development direction. The representative looked at him. Do you have authority to approve security patches? He paused through the technical team. Which technical team? Vale's Integrated Systems Group. Olivia opened the service chart. The integrated group consists of Reed Systems employees assigned under license. Noah looked at her sharply. The representative turned back to me. If Vale Meridian's license ended, what would happen? The company would receive a contractual transition period. Reed Systems would assist with data export and operational migration. We could not disable active routes or retain Vale's data. Could Vale continue using the code indefinitely? Not without a renewed license, Monica said. There is no intention to end the license. That decision requires both parties. I said. The hospital executives exchanged glances. Rachel stepped in. This is a routine contractual clarification occurring during a family governance matter. No, I said it is a corporate governance matter involving related parties. Rachel's smile froze. She had wanted to minimize the dispute by calling it family when useful, then make me behave like an executive when responsibility appeared. The client representative asked whether the data breach involved the Aegis source code. The current evidence indicates access to a customer document repository. I said the core source code was stored separately. Was it accessed? No unauthorized access has been identified. Who attempted to delete the audit logs? Noah answered before I could. The source remains under investigation. The representative looked at him. Were the attempts associated with your office? Monica's head turned. Rachel stopped writing. Had not disclosed that detail to the client. The auditors had apparently included it in a risk notice, Noah said. Administrative traffic can be routed through many locations. That was not my question. Victoria joined by video before Noah could answer. We will provide the completed forensic report when available. She said, at present, no customer operations are at risk. The meeting concluded with the contract intact, but the client demanded monthly security certifications and independent oversight. Vale Meridian would have to pay for both after the representatives left. Monica closed the conference room door. You humiliated us. I answered their questions. You corrected Noah in front of the client. He made an inaccurate statement. Noah stood near the window. You enjoyed making me look incompetent. I did not need to. He moved toward me. You think because you wrote code. You own everything. I own what the patent and license say I own. Victoria's face remained on the wall screen. Enough. She said, Ethan, the company needs continuity. Give Vale a permanent internal license. No, we helped build the market for Aegis and Vale received years of discounted use. The technology became valuable through our scale. Then you should have negotiated an equity license instead of accepting the family rate. Her expression hardened. You offered that rate. I did. Now you regret it. I regret believing generosity created loyalty. Sophie entered late and heard the last sentence. She stopped near the door. Victoria said, Name your price. I am not selling the intellectual property during an active audit. That sounds like leverage. It is risk management. You are becoming very comfortable speaking to us through contracts. Contracts are clearer than promises. No one answered. I left with Olivia in the elevator. She looked at me. You realize they thought you would give them the software? Yes. Permanently? Yes. For free? Not exactly. They would have called it a family contribution. The elevator doors closed. Olivia shook her head. No wonder they are angry. They are meeting you for the first time. That evening, Rachel appeared on a financial news program. She described the licensing dispute as a temporary misunderstanding with a former internal developer. Former internal developer. I had founded Reed Systems, designed Aegis, and owned more Vale Meridian shares than any sister except Victoria. By the end of the interview, the host displayed the patent registry on screen. My name appeared first. The program also showed excerpts from Noah's conference speeches in which he called himself the creator. Rachel tried to explain that creator had been used in a broad executive sense. The host asked whether broad executive creation included writing no code and owning no patents. The clip spread overnight. For years, Rachel had managed the family narrative. Now, the underlying documents were simpler than her explanation. At 7 the next morning, she called me. What did you give them? Nothing. They showed patent filings. Those are public. They had Noah's presentations, also public. They are constructing a false narrative. What part is false? That he stole your work. Did he create Aegis? He led the business adoption. That was not his claim. She was quiet. I continued. You could correct it. We cannot publicly attack Noah while the audit is active. You publicly implied I caused a security breach before the audit began. That was different. How the evidence pointed to you, the credentials pointed to me, the location, device, and money pointed elsewhere. You know, the public does not understand those distinctions. You depended on that. She ended the call. By noon, 3 technology publications requested interviews. I declined all of them. The evidence did not need my anger to become credible. At 3, the auditors interviewed Owen Grant, the Night Systems administrator. I knew only because Marcus received notice that a witness had corroborated physical access to my office. Owen later sent me a short email. Should have reported it when it happened. I am sorry, I replied. Tell the auditors everything he did. Noah had entered my office at 1:20. On the night before the breach, he told Owen that Victoria authorized an emergency review of my credentials. When Owen asked for written confirmation, Noah said family executive matters did not require ordinary tickets. At 1:46, an administrator disabled door access retention. At 2:13, my copied token accessed the client repository. At 2:19, data transferred to an external server connected to Northstar. At 3:12, Noah asked Owen to classify the alerts as testing traffic. Owen refused. The next morning, Noah's chief of staff placed him on performance review, a complete chain. Reason, action, retaliation. When the preliminary findings reached Claire, she called me from a private number. I answered. I need to ask you something, she said. Go ahead. Did Marcus draft your audit request before the board meeting? No. How quickly did you contact him during the meeting? Why were you prepared? Because I remembered prison. Because I remembered her refusing my calls. Because I remembered my sisters donating my clothes before the appeal ended. I could not tell her that. I built the audit layer because I knew someone had been interfering with credentials. I said you suspected Noah. I suspected unauthorized activity. Why did you not tell me? I submitted 3 security reports in 6 months. I never saw them. They were routed through Noah's executive office. She went silent. When did you realize? She asked at the board meeting. That he framed you. That none of you cared enough to verify whether he had her breath caught. I cared. You prepared the confession. I believed I was limiting your exposure. You created it. I was trying to keep you out of prison. The irony was almost unbearable. In another life, that document would have put me there, I said. What does that mean? It means never ask me to sign something like that again. Would not. You already did. She lowered her voice. Noah asked me to destroy the internal legal memorandum. Which memorandum? The one recording his request that we obtain your admission before the audit. Did you destroy it? No. Preserve it and disclose it. If I do, I may have to resign. That is your decision. He is our brother. So am I. She said nothing. I ended the call that night. Each sister contacted me separately. Victoria wanted a temporary voting arrangement. Claire wanted more time before producing her memorandum. Monica wanted assurance that the medical division would retain discounted support. Rachel wanted a joint public statement. Sophie wanted to meet without discussing the company. 5 calls, 5 different needs. Not one began with the words, I was wrong. I answered them all in the same way. Send it in writing. The forensic team's preliminary report arrived on Friday. It ran 187 pages. The executive summary was 6. I read the summary twice before continuing. The evidence supported 4 central findings. First, the client repository had been accessed with a duplicate of my administrator token from a device assigned to Noah's executive suite. Second, the extracted data had been transferred to a server paid for by Northstar Advisory. Third, Northstar had received $8,400,000 from Vail Meridian without delivering services of equivalent value. Fourth, Noah's private investment company was the ultimate beneficiary of most Northstar payments. The report did not use the word fraud. Auditors were careful. It used phrases such as unsupported commercial purpose, concealed related party relationship, and indicators requiring referral to law enforcement. The meaning was clear. Marcus sat across from me while I read. "What happens next?" I asked. "The independent directors will seek full board action. The company may self-report to federal authorities and affected clients." "What about the accusation against me?" "The report says the evidence does not support it." "Does not support is not the same as false. The final report may go further." "I want the public statement." "Corrected. Now we can demand it." "Do that." Marcus opened another file. "There is a complication." "Claire." "Yes." She had produced the internal memorandum. It documented a meeting held 2 days before the succession vote. Noah, Victoria, Claire, and Rachel attended. According to the memorandum, Noah claimed immediate disclosure would destroy client confidence. He recommended obtaining my signed admission before requesting outside analysis. Claire recorded her concern that the evidence had not been independently verified. Victoria responded that the family could resolve factual disputes later. Rachel proposed describing the issue publicly as an act by a dissatisfied insider. My removal had not been an emergency reaction. It had been planned. "Did Monica and Sophie know?" I asked. "There is no evidence they attended that meeting. They still voted yes." The distinction mattered legally, emotionally. It changed little at 11 o'clock. The board convened. This time the independent auditors attended. So did outside regulatory counsel. Noah sat beside Victoria. Claire sat at the opposite end of the table. I attended in person because the vote concerned my name and my property. Andrea Mills presented the findings without emotion. She displayed the login timeline, the device record, the Harbor Point address, the Northstar payments. Noah objected repeatedly. That device was accessible to multiple employees. Which employees, Andrea asked, would need to review access? The office entry records show only you and your chief of staff entered during the relevant period. The records could have been altered. The access controller is maintained by a third-party security provider. Ethan designed the integration. The provider supplied an independent copy. Noah looked at me. I did not react. Andrea displayed the external drive identifier found on my missing workstation. The device was purchased with a Northstar credit card and delivered to Harbor Point. The same drive had been used to create a folder containing selected client files and a fabricated email exchange. Noah leaned back. This entire report assumes Ethan's systems are reliable. Andrea turned to the next slide. The relevant conclusions are corroborated by bank records, third-party building security records, telecommunications data, and witness testimony. They do not depend on a single system. Victoria's hands remained still on the table. She did not interrupt. For the first time, there was no family explanation large enough to cover the evidence. Claire spoke after Andrea finished. "I need to disclose an additional legal issue." Noah turned toward her. Claire placed the memorandum on the table. "This records a meeting held before Ethan was presented with the admission." Victoria's voice sharpened. "That memorandum is privileged." "Privilege cannot be used to conceal ongoing misconduct," Claire said. "Outside counsel has reviewed the disclosure." Noah stared at her. "You told me it was destroyed." The room went silent. Claire's face emptied of color. Andrea looked directly at him. "When did you request its destruction?" "I did not. You just stated that a mess. Vail told you it was destroyed." "I meant I assumed." Claire closed her eyes. Victoria whispered his name, not with affection, with warning. The words had escaped before he could shape them. He had confirmed knowledge of the memorandum and an expectation that it would disappear. Helen Ward called for an immediate vote to suspend Noah from all company positions, freeze compensation, and refer the findings to authorities. Victoria did not raise her hand at first. Neither did Monica. Rachel stared at the table. Sophie looked at me. I remembered 5 raised hands this time. I raised mine first. Helen followed. Then 2 other independent directors. Claire raised hers. Sophie did too. Monica followed. After several seconds, Rachel's hand came next. Victoria was last. Noah watched each one rise. "You cannot be serious," he said. No one answered. He looked at Victoria. "You know what Ethan is doing." Victoria's hand remained raised. "This is not about Ethan. It has always been about Ethan." "No," I said. "It was about $8,400,000. He stood so quickly that his chair struck the wall. "You think they will love you after this?" I looked at him. "That is no longer part of my calculation." Security escorted him from the room. As the door closed, he turned toward my sisters. "I was your brother before he was." No one responded. The vote passed unanimously. Afterward, the board authorized self-reporting, civil recovery action, and a public correction stating that the preliminary audit found no evidence I caused the breach. Rachel objected to the wording. We should avoid declaring innocence before the final report. I opened the confession she had supported. You did not avoid declaring guilt. She looked at the crossed-out signature line. Then she raised her hand in favor of the correction. The statement went public that afternoon. It did not apologize. It said the initial report was incomplete and that no evidence supported my involvement. My name disappeared from several headlines. New ones replaced it. Heir suspended after audit finds related party payments. Tech executive cleared in logistics data breach. Who really built Aegis at 5? Reporters crowded outside headquarters. I left through the front entrance. Rachel tried to stop me. "Do not speak to them." "I am not planning to. They will ask whether the family framed you." What should I say? That the audit corrected an internal misunderstanding. Was the confession a misunderstanding? Her face tightened. "You want to humiliate us?" "I want you to stop controlling what I am allowed to call what happened." The doors opened. Cameras turned toward me. Questions came from every direction. "Mr. Reed, did Noah avail Steel Company funds? Will you return to Vale Meridian? Did your sisters knowingly accuse you without evidence? Will Reed Systems terminate the Aegis license?" I stopped before the microphones. "The independent audit is ongoing," I said. "I will not speculate beyond verified findings. The company has corrected its statement regarding me. Reed Systems will continue honoring its contracts. My future relationship with Vale Meridian will be governed by written agreements, not family expectations." A reporter shouted, "Do you forgive your sisters?" I looked through the glass behind them. Victoria stood inside the lobby with Claire. Monica, Rachel, and Sophie, all 5 watched me. "That is not a corporate question," I said. I walked away that night. Victoria came to Reed Systems alone. Olivia told her I had not approved a meeting. Victoria waited in reception for 40 minutes. Eventually, I went out. She stood when she saw me. "I will not take much time. You have 5 minutes." She accepted the limit without argument. That was new. "I should have required the audit before the vote," she said. "Yes. I believed Noah because the evidence appeared clear." "You believe selected evidence from his office?" "Yes." The admission sounded difficult, not because she doubted it. Because Victoria had built her identity on being the person who never made avoidable mistakes. "I was afraid the company would collapse if the breach became public," she continued. "So you gave the public someone to blame. I thought the family could protect you afterward. You thought I would sign?" "Yes." "Why?" She looked at me. "Because you always did what the family needed." There it was, the honest answer. Not because she trusted me. Not because she believed I was guilty. Because I had trained them to expect my sacrifice. "If I had signed," I said, "would you have investigated Noah?" She did not answer immediately. "I do not know." That means no. I cannot change what happened. "No, but I can correct it." "You can correct the public record. You can recover the money. You can cooperate with investigators and us. There is no us in the form you remember." Her posture remained straight. But her voice weakened. "You are my brother. Biologically. That is not fair. It is the standard you used when Sophie told me Noah had actually been her brother for 30 years. Sophie was upset. She was accurate. Victoria stepped closer. Come home. No, the house is yours, too. Claire established that it is a trust asset. I can change that. I do not want it. Then tell me what you want. Nothing from you. For the first time, Victoria looked frightened. Anger. She understood. Negotiation. She controlled. Demands could be measured and traded. Nothing gave her no path back to authority. You cannot erase us, she said. I am not erasing you. You left without a word. You heard every word at the board meeting. You said you were not saying goodbye. I was not. She stared at me. I let her understand it. Goodbye implied an expected absence. A parting between people who still recognize the relationship. I had simply stopped participating when her 5 minutes ended. I opened the reception door. Victoria did not move at first. Then she walked past me at the doorway. She said, Noah's attorneys claim the money was compensation for investment services. Then they can show the services. There are none. I know. He has blamed Rachel for the public statements and Claire for the confession. I expected that. He says Sophie gave him access to the product repository. Did she years ago for a demonstration? Then the access can be verified. She nodded. You are not surprised by any of this. I have already seen what happens when everyone protects him. The sentence came closer to the truth than she knew. She studied my face. What happened to you in that boardroom? I believed you. What? When all 5 hands went up, I finally believed what you had been telling me for 8 years. She left without asking what I meant. The following morning, federal agents served preservation orders at Vail Meridian and North Star Advisory. An audit had no favorite child, neither did a warrant. Noah was not arrested immediately. The federal investigation moved more slowly than headlines wanted. Agents collected devices, banking records, and vendor files. Attorneys negotiated interviews. The board placed Noah on unpaid suspension but did not formally terminate him until the final audit. The delay gave my sisters time to call. Victoria called first. We have a leadership vacuum. She said you have a board. The board is divided. That is what boards are for. Return as interim chief executive. No, it would stabilize the share price. I am not responsible for the share price. You own 28%. That makes me a shareholder, not your emergency replacement. You have more at risk than anyone except me. I am willing to accept the financial loss. She was silent. Money had always been Victoria's final argument. She believed every rational person had a price at which family damage became intolerable. I am offering you the position you deserved. She said after the person you chose became unavailable. That is not why. It is exactly why you were always better qualified. Then why did you vote for Noah? Her answer took too long. He understood the public side of the business and I understood the actual business. That sounds arrogant. It is documented. She exhaled. We could lead it together. No, you are throwing away your father's company. Our father left shares. Not an obligation to sacrifice my life. I ended the call. Claire called next. Her voice sounded tired. Federal counsel wants to interview me regarding the admission document. Tell the truth. I will. Then why are you calling? To ask whether you intend to file a professional complaint. I have not decided. I drafted the statement based on information supplied by an executive officer. You failed to verify it. I noted my concern privately. I was under pressure. So was I. She was silent. I could lose my position. She said, You asked me to sign away mine. I thought I was keeping the matter internal. You prepared an admission without a use restriction, independent review, or immunity agreement. I know that now. You knew it then. The line went quiet when Claire spoke again. Her voice was lower. You are right. It was the first unqualified admission any sister had made. I did not know what to do with it. I am sorry, she said. I believe you regret it. That is not the same thing. No. Will you ever forgive me? I do not know. I need more than that. So did I. I ended the call. Monica called from a distribution center. Machinery sounded behind her. The hospital network is demanding a new service contract, she said. Then negotiated. They want Reed Systems as a direct party. That is reasonable. It reduces our margin. That is a business issue. We built this network together. I built the platform. Vale built the logistics operation. You never spoke like this before. Should have. She lowered her voice. I said terrible things at your office. Yes. I thought you were using patient risk against us. There was no patient risk. I know that now. You could have checked before accusing me. I trusted Noah's report. You all did. I was wrong. Correct the system's documentation. We have started. Credit every developer. We will. And stop advertising Noah as the creator. That material is being removed. Good. She waited. I could hear an announcement over the center speakers. Is that all you have to say? She asked. What did you expect? I do not know. Maybe that you understand why I was afraid. I understand. I no longer accept fear as permission to sacrifice me. She said my name softly. I ended the call. Rachel called that evening. She did not begin with the company. I watched every interview Noah gave about Aegis. She said I wrote most of the talking points. I know. He told me you preferred staying behind the scenes. I told you the development credits were wrong. You said the language should be more precise. Yes. I thought you were being difficult. I know. I built his reputation using your work. Yes, the repetition became unbearable. Not because I enjoyed hearing her admit it, because every admission proved the information had been available all along. You should release a correction, I said. Corporate counsel wants to wait for the final report. You did not wait before blaming me. I know. Then do not call me for absolution while the false material remains online. I am not asking for absolution. What are you asking for? A joint statement. I closed my eyes, of course. What would it say? That the family regrets the initial misunderstanding, that we support the independent process, and that we are united in protecting Vale Meridian. We are not united. It would compliance. No, you would let thousands of employees suffer because you refused to stand beside us. The employees did not write your statement. Your silence will be interpreted. You have interpreted my silence for years. She began to answer. I ended the call. Sophie called last. She did not mention a contract, investigation, or public statement. I found something in the old emergency binder. She said, what's your crisis notes? I remembered the binder. After every major operational emergency, I wrote a summary. Cause, response, unresolved risk, and the people responsible for each action. You documented everything. She said that was the job. The ransomware attack, the port strike, the vaccine shipment failure, the lender presentation. Yes. Noah received awards for 3 of those. Yes. Why did you let him? I thought the family knew. I did not. You attended the review meetings. I saw him speaking. I did not know you had done everything before he entered the room. You never asked. She breathed in. No. I waited for the request. It came eventually. Can I see you? No. Not at the house. No, not to talk about the company. There is no conversation we need to have today. Are you afraid I will manipulate you? No. Then why? Because you want immediate access to me to reduce your guilt? That is not true. Then wait. For how long? I do not know. You keep saying that. Because you keep asking for a deadline after which everything returns to normal. She was quiet. That is what I want. She admitted. It is not available. I ended the call. 5 calls. Each sister had moved a little closer to the truth. Victoria admitted she chose company stability. Claire admitted she failed professionally. Monica admitted fear replaced verification. Rachel admitted she manufactured Noah's reputation. Sophie admitted she had never looked behind it. But every call still contained a request. Return, delay, negotiate, stand beside us, see me. They were sorry, but they still believed sorrow entitled them to access. That night, I sent each of them the same written boundary. All corporate communication must proceed through formal channels. I will not return to the Veal residence, resume a family role, or participate in public reconciliation statements. Personal contact should pause until the forensic and legal processes conclude. Victoria replied that the boundary was unnecessary. Claire said she understood. Monica did not answer. Rachel called twice. Sophie sent a single word. Okay. The following morning, Olivia entered my office holding a courier envelope. No return address. Inside was a printed email. The sender line showed my Reed Systems account. The recipient was an outside data broker. The message stated that I intended to sell Vale Meridian's client records and blamed the leak on Noah. At the bottom, a handwritten note read, "He is still trying to frame you." There was no signature. I examined the email. The wording sounded artificial, but it used private phrases from my old messages. Whoever created it had access to my workstation or archived mail. I sent it to Marcus and the forensic auditors. Within hours, Rachel announced that Noah's attorneys had provided new evidence suggesting I planned the breach. The email was their centerpiece. The public correction had been online for less than a week. My sisters had begun to question him, so Noah gave them one more document, one more chance to choose the answer they wanted. The emergency board meeting began at 4 o'clock. Rachel entered carrying the email. Noah attended through his attorney. Victoria looked at me across the table. "We need to verify this before anyone makes a statement." She said it was the sentence she should have spoken at the first meeting. Sophie placed both hands flat on the table. "No one votes until the metadata is examined." Claire nodded. Monica said, "Agreed." Rachel looked at them a week ago. "All of you believed an unverified report." I said, "What changed?" No one answered. They had changed because the cost had reached them still. They had changed that matter to the truth. Even if it did not repair us. I gave the email to the forensic team. "The message is fabricated." I said, "My account uses hardware-signed outgoing mail. Verify the signature." Andrea examined the header. There is no valid signature. Noah's attorney said, the absence could result from export. The server copy will contain it. I replied, the auditor accessed Reed Systems' immutable backup. No such email existed. The creation timestamp embedded in the document was 3 days after I left the Vale house. The font rendering matched software installed on my missing workstation after it was moved to Noah's office. The external drive identifier appeared again. The same North Star device. Rachel lowered the paper. Noah's attorney objected. Andrea continued. The forged message had been created locally, converted to PDF, and printed. It had never passed through an email server. Sophie turned toward Rachel. "Were you going to publish this?" Rachel did not answer. Victoria did. "No." Rachel looked at her. Victoria repeated it. No statement. Not until the final report for the first time. She chose verification before Noah. Too late for me. Just in time to watch his last plan fail. At 6, the forensic team announced that the corridor surveillance archive from the night of the breach had been recovered from the building security provider. The video showed Noah entering my locked office. He carried an empty laptop bag. 26 minutes later. He left with the bag visibly full. Owen walked behind him. The footage had no audio, but Owen's written testimony supplied the conversation. Noah had told him that. Victoria authorized the collection of my security token. Victoria watched the video twice. Then she turned to him on the conference screen. "I never authorized that." Noah's attorney muted the connection. The screen went dark. No one in the room moved. Sophie began to cry, not loudly. She covered her mouth and looked away from me. I did not comfort her. The truth was finally doing the work I had once destroyed myself trying to do. The final forensic report was scheduled for release in 10 days. Noah's attorneys spent those 10 days challenging every source. They argued the building video lacked context. They argued the bank transfers represented legitimate consulting fees. They argued the copied token could have been placed on Noah's device remotely. They argued the forged email had been created by an unknown employee attempting to help him. Each explanation required a different unseen person. Undocumented authorization or improbable coincidence. The evidence required only Noah. Federal investigators interviewed him on the 4th day. He entered the building through a side door. Rachel had once trained him never to hide from cameras because retreat suggested guilt. Now he covered his face with a folder. The image appeared everywhere. I did not share it. I did not comment. I had learned that public humiliation was not the same as justice. Humiliation depended on an audience. Justice remained when the audience moved on. My work was to preserve what remained. Reed Systems lost 2 clients during the investigation. Both feared being drawn into litigation with Vail Meridian. The loss forced me to postpone a product expansion and reduce my own salary to nearly zero for 3 months. I told the employees at a Monday meeting. No positions will be eliminated, I said. But bonuses will be delayed until we replace the revenue. Sam raised his hand. Are we still turning down unpaid Vail work? Yes, then I can wait for the bonus. Several others nodded. Olivia passed me a list of potential clients that Vail demands had prevented us from pursuing. A regional rail operator, a disaster relief organization, 2 cold storage companies. Walking away from my family did not reveal a secret empire. It revealed work, sales calls, contract revisions, risk reviews, meetings where no one cared about my surname. The ordinary difficulty felt clean. On Wednesday, Marcus called me into his office. Federal counsel confirmed that you are not a target. I sat down. In writing, he handed me the letter. Based on currently available evidence, investigators did not consider me responsible for unauthorized access, document transfer, or related financial misconduct. The letter did not return the months I lost in my first life. But this life had not been taken yet. I held the page carefully. What about the confession? They are reviewing the circumstances under which it was prepared. Claire Heir, she has retained separate counsel and is cooperating. And Noah, no charging decision yet. I nodded. Marcus studied me. You expected this to feel different. I expected to feel something. You were cleared before formal charges were filed. That is a good outcome. I know. Then what is it? I looked at the letter. All 5 sisters had enough information to wait. None of them did. Their mistake does not change your clearance. No, my clearance does not change their choice. That afternoon, Claire requested a personal meeting. The legal process was not finished, but I agreed because she had completed her formal interview and produced the memorandum. We met at Marcus' office. She arrived without a Vail Meridian folder. I resigned as general counsel this morning, she said. Was that required? No. Why? I cannot advise the company on failures I helped create. I waited. She placed a copy of the confession on the table. The signature box remained crossed out. I drafted this in 47 minutes, she said. Noah's office gave me the incident summary. Victoria said the lender was calling. Rachel said the press had identified a family. Source, I thought if you accepted responsibility internally, I could control the consequences. You could not. I know. You should have known then. Yes. There was no defense in the answer. That made it harder to reject. I used my profession to make your sacrifice look safe, she said. I told myself it was temporary because I did not want to admit what I was asking. What were you asking? For you to become guilty on paper so the rest of us could remain innocent in public. The room remained silent. Had wanted one of them to say it plainly. Now that Claire did, the sentence did not heal anything. It only made the wound accurately named. Why me? I asked. Her eyes lowered. Because Noah would not have agreed. And I would. Yes, because I wanted the family. Yes. I nodded. She took an envelope from her bag. This is a withdrawal of every internal allegation I made against you. Along with a statement accepting responsibility for preparing the admission without independent verification. It has been sent to the board, auditors, and investigators. I read the first page. It was precise. No euphemisms, no miscommunication, no shared blame. Thank you, I said, her eyes filled. The words were probably colder than she wanted. They were all I could honestly give. Do you hate me? She asked. No, that almost feels worse. I do not have the energy to hate you. Can we ever be family again? We are related. You know what I mean? Yes, I folded the statement and returned it to the envelope. I cannot be the brother I was. I am not asking you to. You are. She opened her mouth, then stopped. I continued. The brother, you remember, answered every call. He signed whatever protected the company. He gave Victoria his votes. He let Noah use his work. He accepted being last because he believed patience would eventually make him belong. I do not want that for you. But you want access to me without accepting that he is gone. Claire wiped her cheek. What can I do? Live with the fact that some consequences cannot be negotiated away. She nodded once. When she left, she did not ask for a hug. That was the first boundary any of them respected without protest. The final board hearing took place on Friday. The room was larger than the one where my sisters had first raised their hands. Shareholders attended remotely. Reporters waited outside. The auditors sat along one side with boxes of supporting records. Noah appeared with 2 attorneys. He looked thinner. He still wore an expensive suit and the Vale family watch our father had given him at 21. Wore my adoptive father's repaired steel watch. Andrea presented the final report. The conclusions were no longer cautious. North Star Advisory was a related entity concealed from the board. Its work did not justify the payments. Noah directed the payments and benefited from them. He obtained my authentication token without authorization. He used it to access client records. He transferred those records to a North Star-controlled server. He moved my workstation, connected a North Star-owned drive, and participated in creating a fabricated email. He requested deletion of records and destruction of Claire's memorandum. The final report cleared me completely. When Andrea finished, Noah's lead attorney said, the findings remain disputed. Helen Ward called Daniel. He presented the money trail. North Star received Vale funds. North Star transferred money to 2 intermediary companies. Those companies funded NV. Strategic Holdings. NV used part of the money to cover losses from speculative investments and part to capitalize the entity that attempted to buy preferred Vale shares. Noah had tried to steal money. Blame me for the missing amount and use what remained to purchase control. Victoria sat motionless. Monica closed her eyes. Rachel's hands trembled. Sophie looked directly at Noah. You told me Ethan wanted to erase you. She said. Noah's attorney touched his arm. He ignored the warning. He did. He left because his plan failed. He did not sell his shares. He did not take your trust. He did not ask us to remove you. He turned all of you against me. Sophie's voice broke. You did that. Noah looked toward Victoria. You are going to believe him now. Victoria answered quietly. I believe the records. You used to believe me. I did. The past tense struck him. He stood. All of this started when he came back. We were a family before him. I expected pain. Instead, I felt clarity. Noah finally said aloud what had guided him from the beginning. My existence was the offense, not anything I had taken, not anything I had demanded. The possibility that the family might have to make room for me had been enough. I spoke before anyone else could. You could have remained their brother. Noah turned toward me. I never asked for your trust distributions. I never challenged your adoption. I never asked them to remove your name. You did not have to. You had blood and you had 30 years. It was mine, the family, everything. I nodded. That is why you lost it. His attorney told him to sit down. He did not. You think they chose you? No. I looked at my 5 sisters. They chose the evidence after it became impossible not to. No one objected. Helen called for votes. Termination for cause. Civil recovery of diverted funds. Referral of the final report to federal authorities and affected regulators. Permanent removal of Noah's access to Vale Meridian systems. Every motion passed. Then Helen introduced a final resolution, public acknowledgement that Aegis Route Engine had been developed and remained owned by Reed Systems with corrected credits on all company materials. The resolution passed unanimously. My name appeared on the board screen, Ethan Reed, lead architect and rights holder. For years, I imagined how recognition might feel. I thought I would feel vindicated, triumphant, visible. Instead, I looked at the screen and saw a fact that had always been true. Their refusal to acknowledge it had never changed the authorship, only the price I paid for waiting. After the findings, the board asked everyone except directors and essential counsel to leave. I remained because of my shares. Noah was escorted out through a private corridor. Reporters shouted when they saw him. The boardroom door closed. Victoria looked older than she had 10 days earlier. Helen distributed a restructuring proposal. Vale Meridian needed interim leadership, lender negotiations, client reassurance, and a new technology agreement. The company remained solvent, but legal reserves and repayment obligations would reduce cash significantly. We need an interim chief executive. Helen said, I nominate Ethan Reed. The motion received immediate support from 2 independent directors. Monica raised her hand. Rachel did too. Sophie looked at me before raising hers. Claire was no longer general counsel and had no vote. Victoria said, I support the nomination. 9 days earlier, those 5 hands had removed me. Now they wanted to install me at the head of the company. I did not feel chosen. I felt useful again. I decline. I said. Victoria leaned forward. Ethan, listen to the terms first. No, the position includes full operational control, authority to appoint new executives, and compensation determined by an independent committee. I am not interested. Helen said your leadership would materially reduce transition risk. I will provide contracted technical transition services through Reed Systems. This is your family's company. Monica said it is a company in which I own shares. It was Dad's life. It does not have to become mine. Victoria's voice hardened. You cannot abandon it now. I resigned before the audit under false accusations. I did not resign because the accusation was true. I resigned.